favorite tips and tricks in the Libby app. Before Marissa connects her device, however, I have a few housekeeping items I just wanted to go over. We are recording our sessions today, and you'll receive copies of those recordings in an email tomorrow morning from Zoom. You'll receive a version of the Getting Started session and this tips and tricks session we're in right now. Those recordings include transcription, and will also show all of the questions and answers that come through at any point, so you won't lose any of the info even if you are reviewing that recording or sharing it with a family or friend. The other key item that I've already mentioned at least a little bit is you can ask Marissa and I questions at any point throughout the entire presentation by tapping on that Q&A button within your Zoom meeting controls. Type out your question, send it our way. This session's a little different than if you attended one of our earlier Getting Started sessions, where a lot of times I will save questions for Marissa to demonstrate live after she covers our top 4 tips and tricks. But some things I may answer right away in that Q&A, and some things we may save for live demo later. Just know that we will answer your questions before we end the meeting. Chat and the raise hand feature are disabled because we want everything to go directly into that one Q&A place so everyone can see the questions that come through and any answers that we type out. Have no fear, you can ask questions anonymously if that makes you more comfortable. So with that said, I just wanted to quick break down the tips and tricks Marissa will be covering. The first one is the way that you can customize your browsing experience in the new updated version of Libby, filtering and refining searches to find titles you like faster, tagging titles, and then making notes and highlights. So with those lined up for you, I'll let Marissa connect her iPad to the screen. And thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Once again, feel free to send any and all questions through Q&A. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thinking here. Okay, there we go. All right. So this session does work a little bit differently than the Getting Started session. So if you stayed from the Getting Started session, you noticed that it was a very cultivated flow. We made sure that it all went smoothly. For tips and tricks, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be our 4 tips and tricks, and it's going to be tip 1, here it is, tip 2, here it is, tip 3, here it is. So just a little warning about that. That's how we're going to do it. Our first 2 tips and tricks are all about searching and browsing in the Libby app. So we're first going to start out with how you can customize your browsing experience in Libby. And what we're going to do is start out on the library card at the very bottom of the screen, this library tab. This is where you can browse your library's digital collection. And there are 2 ways that you can customize this browsing experience to fit it into your needs, whether it's liking a certain format or wanting to see certain collections. So we're on the library tab here, this library card tab. I'm going to start scrolling down on this tab here. And the first thing I want to show you is preferences. So I'm going to tap this little plus sign here. Preferences are saved and applied to all of the lists in Libby. So when you are someone who specifically only wants to see ebooks or specifically only wants to see audiobooks, setting a format preference for those specific formats is really nice because once you apply those, they apply to all lists in Libby, and every time you search for a book, you'll only see what you wanted to see in the first place. You're not going to have to scroll past all of that content that you don't care about. So I'm going to set a preference. A good time to set a preference or a good kind of preference to set in for me is language. So I like to read ebooks and audiobooks. I'm going to leave format both there as any, but I am going to change my language from any to English. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I can't read in any other language. So I don't need any foreign language titles to populate in my searches because I know I'm not going to be able to read them right off the bat. So I'm going to set an English language preference so that Libby then filters out all foreign language titles for me. You can see there's a few other options here as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and tap Apply Preference. And I'm going to scroll back down to that preference bar here. And you can see now across from preferences, I have a 1. And I just like to point that out because anytime you have a number there, that's how you know that something is being filtered out based on the criteria that you set. So now Libby is only going to show me English titles moving forward, even if I close and reopen the app today, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now. As long as I see this 1 here, then that is going to allow me to filter out those non-English titles. The second way that you can customize your reading experience is lower on the page. So this is actually pretty new. You can now customize what curated collections you're seeing on your library tab. So there are 2 different types of lists. There's generated lists. That means a computer is generating this list for you. And then let me scroll down. There's also library lists. That means your specific library is curating these lists for you. If for some reason this is a list that you don't want to see, then you can tap on this little minus button here, and that will bring up this little menu that tells you you can hide this at this library for all future visits. And of course, if it's a mistake, you can restore it by scrolling down to the end. I'm going to go ahead and tap on proceed. That's going to make the next list jump up. All the lists are going to shift up, and a new list comes down at the bottom of the list. Until you run out of lists, they will keep on populating. New lists will keep on populating. This is something that if you start doing, you'll find that you're going to do it every month, customizing what lists show up, because curated collections usually happen often. So your library is always wanting to show you a new, fresh, exciting list. So you'll be likely curating this for yourself throughout your time using Libby. But I just wanted to show you how you can do that. So if you're not interested in mystery curated lists, you can minimize those and not have to scroll past them when you're browsing for titles. So that is tip number 1, how to curate your browsing experience by setting preferences and making sure that you're dismissing those curated collections you're not interested in. We're now going to run into tip number 2. We're going to head on over to tip number 2, that is refining and filtering lists. And this is so that you can find the books that you like faster. So I'm going to start with one of the filters up at the top of our library tab here, our library card. I'm still on that tab. So these filters are really nice and interesting. You can see that some of them have arrows going up and down, and others will have a number next to them. If you see arrows going up and down, then that means that it's going to be every title in your library's digital collection showing up in that search, and then it's going to filter by whatever that filter was. So I'm just going to tap into random, and that's going to show us every title in the library's digital collection. You can see I'm starting out with 38,000 books, 21,000 audiobooks, and 2,000 magazines, with which Joe just discovered are actually a part of your digital collection. We live in Ohio, so we are not experts in your exact digital collection, and it looks like your single library has access to them and not the entire consortia. So we will actually talk about borrowing and reading magazines. We're going to go over time because of that, but if you're interested, I'll add that at the end.
Yep, sorry about that mistake, everyone.
So we are currently narrowing and filtering and refining our search. So what I'm going to do to start refining this search, let's say we're specifically interested in an audiobook right now. We're about to go on a road trip. Let's filter out the ebooks and magazines. This one's really simple. All we have to do is tap on the audiobook number and then audiobook, and that's going to filter out the ebooks and the magazines. So this sentence is going to get longer as we add filters and start refining. So I already have a preference set that's filtering out any foreign language titles. I'm going to come over to refine here to continue narrowing this list down. We are currently looking at 21,000 titles. That's quite a lot to look through. So let's get this a little more reasonable of a list for us to look at. So what I'm going to do is come down and I'm going to change the availability to available now. We're going on a road trip, so we don't want to place a hold. Let's go ahead and filter by available now. We're going to filter out those books that require a hold. My number dropped only a tiny bit because this is a demo library, but I just wanted to show that that's an option. Another thing you can do is choose a subject. It moved in our last update and I'm used to going down farther, but let's go ahead and choose a subject here. So we're looking at all audiobooks right now. Let's go ahead and specifically look for a mystery title. I'm going to tap on that. You can see my number dropped from 21,000 to 2,800. I'm going to choose a second subject now. And what this is going to do when I choose a second subject is it's going to combine with the first subject that I chose. So I'm going to choose historical fiction. And what this is going to do is I'm going to be searching for mystery titles that are also historical fiction titles. So not mystery titles and historical fiction titles. They're going to be both, a combination of the two subjects. This is how you can find those niche subjects here. So you can see my number dropped again. I'm now down to 205, and I'm looking at mystery and historical fiction titles that are available audiobooks in English. So I'm going to just do one more refine here. I'm going to now sort my list. I want to see the newest titles showing up at the top. And then as I make my way down the list, those are going to get older. And to do that, I'm going to come down to sort by and choose release date. And that's going to make it so those newest titles are up at the top. So we filtered down from over 70,000 titles to 205 titles, and now they're all meeting the criteria that I wanted in my specific situation of going on a road trip and needing to find an audiobook right now. So that is how you can filter and refine lists to find the books that you like faster. That was tip number 2. We're now going to head into tip number 3, tagging titles. Tagging titles is a great way to keep track of wish lists. You can create tags for a lot of different reasons. This is one of the main differences between Overdrive and Libby. So in Overdrive, you have a wish list and then you have a history. In Libby, the tagging system is really robust. You can make tags for whatever you want. And so the only limit to the tags that you create and the lists that you create is your imagination. As I scroll down this list, we're still in our search, but this is the perfect way to show you what the benefits of tags are and how you can tag. So next to any title in a list, you'll see the option to tag. I already have 2 tags going right now. I have a wish list, and then I actually have this is a smart tag. So we recently launched smart tags in our last update. This specific smart tag will attach to any book that you borrow. And so anytime you're in a search and you come across the little receipt icon, that is an indication that you've borrowed that book in the past. I think it's really nice that those are launched now, because now we're in this list, we're searching for a book, We already know we read this book. We already borrowed it, so I can just skip right past it. I don't have to read the first 50 pages ever again and realize that I read it in the past. So that's what a smart tag is. The wish list I created. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make these tags. So all you have to do is tap on tag next to that jacket cover, and your little tag menu will appear. You can see these regular tags are the tags that I created. I made my own wish list, and then I created a cooking tag to keep track of my cookbooks. Those smart tags are down there at the bottom. This attaches to everything that you borrow. And then I made a little favorite tag. I'm going to go ahead and tap on new tag. And let's say I just want to keep track of my mystery titles. I only have certain moods where I want to read a mystery title. So I'm just going to keep a tag set for mystery titles, add any ones that I see that I want to read to that tag. And I'm just going to tap on go. And now I can hop into my mystery tag here anytime I want to reference mystery titles if I'm in that mood to read them. So that's how you can create a tag. Really simple and easy. You just tap on tag, create, come up with a name, create it. The benefit is that it shows up in that search bar, so you can just skip past any titles that you've borrowed in the past. I'm now going to show you how you can access those tags. So I'm going to come down to my shelf, that shelf icon there. I'm going to tap on that. And you'll notice the icon will turn a color when you tap on it. So that's how you can know you're on that icon there. Up at the top of my shelf, I see my loans, my holds, and then it starts listing out my tags. And I'm just going to pop into my wish list here so that you can see what those tags will look like once you tap into them. So this lists all of the books that I've ever tagged on my wish list here. I can even filter this list. On my personal device, I have hundreds and hundreds of books on my wish list. So really nice to filter by title or author if you would like. Over on the right side of the screen, you'll see your library card icon. And anytime you see that library card icon, that means that you can borrow the title directly from that screen. So I'm going to tap this library card. You can see a little menu appears, and you can borrow titles straight from your wish list without having to go and search for the book or anything like that. So nice option there. Your library card will be different colors depending on what library you tagged that title in. So this was my demo library, and here was my second library card. Up at the very top of your tag lists, you'll have an actions button. This is going to be how you can export your tag. So if you want to print your tag out to take it to the physical library to find a book, or maybe you want to message or email someone your tag list, you want to force them to read all the books that you're reading so that you can have someone to talk to about it. I do that to my sister all the time. What you can do is export your data. I prefer the table option. You'll find what works for you. I've seen people like all different things for different reasons. I'll show you that table option. Here is what it will look like. And then you can come up to the top right-hand corner here. You can see that box with the arrow pointing up. That's a universal icon for share. So anytime you see that, that means you can share the page or whatever content it is. And here we can message, send an email, or if you scroll down a little bit, you can also print that out. So nice option there for your lists that you want to create. If you want to print those out and take them on the go, that is an option for you. So that is tagging titles. I'm going to go ahead and tap done here. And now we're going to head into not our last tip and trick, because we're going to talk about magazines, but we're going to talk about notes and highlights first. So I'm going to just go back to my shelf here and open up an ebook that I have borrowed already. So notes and highlights are really great for anyone who's in book clubs, students who are reading for school. Maybe you're like me and Joe and you just like to annotate your books for fun. what you're going to do is, let's go ahead. I'm going to jump into the book here. All right. So when you're reading a book and you want to make a highlight or a note, start at the very beginning of the passage that you want to highlight. So I am going to actually tap on mom, but I'm going to move my cursor so you can see what's happening. I'm going to tap and hold my finger on the screen on the word mom, and then I'm just going to drag across the passage until I reach the end of whatever I want to highlight. And then I'm going to lift my finger off the screen. Once I lift my finger off the screen, that's when the menu will appear to give the option to highlight. If you choose highlight, that's just going to default to yellow. I'm going to go ahead. You can be organized here. I'm going to choose green. And then to add a note to that highlight, all you have to do is tap on the highlight and your note menu will drop down. Now here in this section, you can write. I'm not very good at typing and talking. Joe is much better than I am. You can write a full paragraph here. It doesn't have to just be a sentence. I'm just going to quickly write a sentence for this demonstration. I've written several paragraphs in there for book club, so I've never hit a limit. You probably won't either. I'm going to go ahead and page forward now, just so I can show you how to jump back to those notes and highlights if you are further inside the book and you want to reference that note again. So when you're reading, just tap on the center of the screen. That will make those menus appear. And then what you're going to look for is the multiple bookmark icon in the right-hand corner here. If you tap on that, that will drop down a full list of notes and highlights that you've made. I've only made one in this book. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that highlight there, and it will drag me back to that highlight. And then all I have to do to see the note is tap on the highlight. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, what if I don't have the book anymore? Do those highlights disappear after it returns to the library? Will I have access to them? Can other people see these notes and highlights? These notes and highlights are specific to you, and you will have access to them even when the book is back at the library. So let me show you how to do that. I'm just going to leave this ebook here. I'm going to tap in the center of the screen, and I'm going to tap back up in the top left-hand corner. So to view your notes and highlights for any books that have returned back to the library, what you're going to do is look for the titles details page. The easiest way to find that, because we have smart tags now where it tags automatically any books that we've borrowed, all you have to do is tap into your smart tag list of borrowed books. So I'm going to tap on that icon there. And I'm going to find a book that I've borrowed in the past that I know that I've made a highlight on. So I know I've made notes and highlights in the guest list. I'm just going to go ahead and tap on the jacket cover. That's going to take me to the titles details page. On the titles details page, you are going to look for your reading journey. Your reading journey starts as soon as you borrow a book, and then it will capture any actions that you've taken with that book moving forward. So I'm going to tap on reading journey here, and you can see as I scroll down, all that information is appearing, when I borrowed it and things like that. And you can then see your highlights. So if you tap on your highlight, that's going to bring up your full passage that you highlighted. So it will never just be a little blurb of it. It'll be everything that you highlighted there. And then underneath that will be the full note that you made as well. So that's how you can access those notes and highlights, even if the library book has returned to the library. But that's not all. Just like those tags, we can print them out as well. So I'm going to scroll up to the top of my reading journey here. You're going to look for the same button. If you remember, for tags, we tapped on that actions button. If you tap on actions here, you'll see that you can export your reading data. I'm not going to follow all those steps again because you already saw it, but it's the same steps. You choose how you want to export it. You can choose messaging, emailing, or printing. So you can print those out as well. And that is tip number 4, making notes and highlights. I'm now going to cover reading magazines. I do want to plug my iPad in here really quickly, so I'm going to pause for a second here. I don't want it to die mid-presentation. I had the cord plugged into it the whole time, but it wasn't plugged into the wall. So I was prepared. I was just inadequately prepared. Okay. So we are going to cover magazines. Let's go ahead and pop over to our library tab. And I'm just going to dismiss my reading now bar here so you can see that full navigation bar. So finding and reading magazines. There's a couple ways that you can find magazines. You can search for a specific magazine by tapping that, or not the maroon icon, the magnifying glass, and you can search. The plugging in of the iPad threw me off here. All right, the magnifying glass, you can tap on that to search for a specific book. If you are on your library card, then there are a couple different ways you can find magazines. Some libraries, not everyone, might have a guide here where you can tap into the magazine guide and find magazines that way. My library doesn't have that, so I'm going to show you a separate way that you can find magazines as well. It's really easy, and you've actually already saw it with how to filter and refine your search. So what I'm going to do is come up to available. The reason I'm coming to available is magazines are simultaneous use, meaning there's never going to be a time where you have to place a hold. You can read it along with 100 other people at the same time, and you will all be able to have it available always. So that's why I'm choosing the available filter here. So I'm just going to tap on that. And then if you remember, I told you the easiest way to filter out formats is up at the top here where it says listing. I'm just going to come over to magazines here, tap on magazines, and now I'm going to see a list of every single magazine in my library's digital collection. Now it's only showing me, if you remember, English magazines, so it's not showing me any titles in foreign languages because of my preferences. As I scroll down, you'll see that if your library owns the full catalog of magazines, they'll always show like this grouping here. You can tap on each individual jacket cover there if you want to jump to that specific issue. 5 is the most magazine covers you'll see in the grouping. If they own more, I'll show you how to find that. What I usually like to do is just start by tapping latest issue. And that's going to view the titles details page. And if you did want to borrow the latest issue, you could just tap borrow here underneath that magazine cover. I'm going to scroll down so that we can see a full list of all of the issues of magazines. So bear with me, the titles details page of a magazine is usually pretty long. That one's actually shorter than a lot of them are. But after you scroll under the titles details page, you'll see series information. And this will be a full list of all of the issues that your library owns. So you'll see there's a down button. It will just back catalog all of the issues of that magazine. Now, if you remember from my tags, tips, and tricks, anytime you see a library card here, that means that you can borrow that title straight from the screen you're on. So we could tap this magazine cover to view its individual title details page. Let's just go ahead and borrow it from this screen though. I'm going to tap on my library card and then tap on borrow. You'll see I'm borrowing it for 21 days and I'm going to tap on borrow. Now I didn't think we were doing magazines today, so I have it downloading for offline use. I'm actually not going to do that so it doesn't slow down my internet here while it downloads. Magazines are heavy on the download because they're picture heavy, so just keep that in mind. It takes a while. That's why I'm stopping that download. But I do want to point out this smart tag here. So we learned about smart tags in our tagging tip. We know that books that you borrow automatically have a smart tag attached with that little receipt. This is the second kind of smart tag we have. It's to notify you of any time a new issue of a magazine that you like becomes available. So I've already set up this smart tag, and I tried to make sure that I could show it again, the initial steps of setting it up, and it's not possible. So mine's already set up, but Libby walks you through it. It's so easy. She gives you all the instructions. So don't worry about having to set it up, trouble setting it up, because it's really easy. But every time thereafter you borrow a new magazine, what it's going to do is ask you if you want to add your Notify Me smart tag to it. So I just named my smart tag Faves for my fave magazines. And all you have to do to add titles to that is tap on your tag there. It's added to that tag list. And then you will be notified thereafter of every new issue that comes out of that magazine. Now, I'm going to open a magazine, but I'm not going to open this one because it's not downloaded for offline use and my internet will go crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my shelf and open up a magazine that I've already downloaded for offline use on my shelf. So here is a magazine that I borrowed a couple days ago. I'm just going to tap open in Libby here. There we go. And I was on the table of contents when I last had this open, so it just opened right up to my table of contents. But let me drop these out of the screen here and swipe on back. So when you first open a magazine, you'll have menus up at the top and the bottom of the screen. Just like in that ebook, it will always show you your reading progress here. Around that reading bubble. You can tap on each of these individual icons down here to go to that specific page. If you would like, I hardly ever use this. What I like to do is tap in the center of the screen, make those disappear, and then I like to go to the table of contents just because I think it's easier to see and get a good idea of what the articles are in the magazine. So if you're someone who just likes to read every page of the magazine, you can just keep on tapping and swiping and making your way through the magazine. If you're like me and you only are going for specific articles, I recommend going to the table of contents page and then finding the article you want to read here. These are all links. So I'm just going to tap into health checks every woman should get. If I tap on that, it's going to drag me right to that magazine article. The nicest and easiest way to read a magazine is to come down to the bottom of the screen. You'll see a button that says read the article. If you tap on that, that's going to bring up a little menu here, and it's going to give you a nice view where you can just scroll through that magazine article. You don't have to worry about zooming in and out or anything like that. And as a bonus, your reading customization appearance settings that you made in your ebook experience carry over into your magazine experience. And that way you're not going to have to adjust your reading appearance. So I had this font already set to be a little bit bigger and easier for me to see. I'm going to tap on, you can tap on this down arrow at the top of the menu. To make it easier on yourself, you can also just tap above the menu to make it drop out of the way. If you want to jump back to the table of contents, you can tap on the center of the screen. And then you can tap this middle bar here. It will always say the article name. And if you tap on that, it will bring up your table of contents. This is how I read magazines, so that's what I'm showing you. If you want to just go through the entire magazine, that's totally fine. If you want to hop back to the table of contents to find a new article, just find masthead. That's what table of contents means. And you can return to go back to a new article. I did want to point out, if you didn't want to read articles in that nice, easy, clean way, and you want to make it a little bit harder on yourself, you can also Zoom. This is going to require you to pinch in and out of the screen. And so it's just easier to use the read the article button there. But I wanted to point that out as an option for you. And that is reading magazines, finding and reading magazines. So those smart tags come in handy, and that read the article button. Those are the big two features of reading magazines that I think is important to know. And that wraps up our last impromptu tip there. I'm going to let Joe take back over to start Q&A. If there were any questions that he thought might be beneficial for everyone to hear, etc.
Well, thank you so much, Marissa, and thank you for throwing in magazines last minute there. Of course, as a reminder, we have been recording our session this morning, and you will receive that in an email tomorrow morning from Zoom, both our Getting Started session and this Tips and Tricks session. You can download and keep those permanently by clicking through the link in the email to keep those as often as you need. And you're also welcome to share those videos with any family and friends, anyone who you think would benefit from meeting Libby. Of course, I know we are over time, but Marissa and I will stay on the line until any and all questions are answered. So if you are typing, feel free to finish typing, send that question through, and we will answer it live on screen. Otherwise, if you are all done joining us today, you can tap leave in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to exit the meeting. When you do this, a survey will pop up. If you can take a moment to fill it out and give us your feedback, we would appreciate it. Otherwise, Marissa and I will be here. We'll give you about 2 minutes to finish typing any questions you might have. And then from there, we will end the meeting. So thank you all so much. If this is our last chance to kind of say thank you for joining us today, and happy reading. But we'll be here for about 2 more minutes, unless questions just really start pouring through, then we'll wait until those are all done.
Someone said, thank you for covering magazines. You're welcome. We're sorry that we almost did it.
Right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I am going to end our meeting here.